The film begins with a crowd of people lining up in front of a butcher shop, which is said to sell strange meats that have never been tasted before. People are willing to pay any amount for meat, including its taste. Days turned into weeks, but the crowd showed no signs of slowing down. On the contrary, it is increasing. Even police officers and politicians jumped in. One day, a curious customer finally asked the burning question, "What animal did that piece of meat belong to?" The butcher replied that it was pork from Iran. Soon, the news spread throughout the neighborhood like wildfire, making the butcher shop even busier. Butchers, who once struggled to meet basic needs, have now started making six figures. Even large meat factories were forced to close because of the appearance of this Iranian meat. We then see how the butcher shop run by Vincent and Sophie, passionate butchers who are also a married couple, has gone viral. The butcher shop is located on the outskirts of Paris. At first glance, the couple's life seems to be going smoothly. However, things are very different internally. The store attracts almost no customers, and those who do eventually come are annoyed by Vincent's strange massages on the meat. One day, a group of masked vegetarian activists attacked the store. They poured blood on the couple and ransacked the place before fleeing. Angry, Vincent chased them and knocked one to the ground. After some difficulties, he also exposed the activist. However, the vegetarian's bandmates quickly arrived at the scene and saved him. Before leaving, they also beat Vincent, making him very agitated. Maybe Vincent should spend more time pumping iron and less time touching meat. Later that day, the couple visited friends Stephanie and Mark for lunch. In the kitchen, Sophie cries and calls Stephanie, revealing to her that the bank refuses to lend them money and they are going bankrupt. Stephanie initially tried to cheer her friend up, but then quickly started bragging about how her husband made a lot of money. It is later revealed that Stephanie and her husband Mark also own a butcher shop that is doing very well. A while later, when the two couples were having dinner together, Vincent recounted the previous incident when his store was vandalized. First, Mark mocks him for not installing any security measures. Then he pulls out a gun and gives it to Vincent. He mentioned that the weapon was intended to protect the slaughterhouse from vegetarian extremists. Vincent doesn't have a gun license, but he accepts the gift anyway. This won't bother vegetarians. These balls are not made from cows. On the way home, Sophie informed her husband that she was considering a divorce because their marriage had become boring. Being the wise man that he is, Vincent completely ignores him and soon discovers one of the vegetarian extremists who vandalized his store earlier. To teach this bastard a lesson, Vincent reversed his car to try to hit him. However, he lost control and killed the man. Panicked, he called the police and admitted it was an accident. But Sophie stopped him because she was afraid of going to jail for a long time. Instead, she suggested copying a serial killer named Michel Francois, who dissected his victims and left them in trash bags throughout the city. Vincent realized that his wife watched too many serial killer shows, but he still accepted her idea. Also, maybe they can buy this guy and make some money. At night, he placed the body in his shop and began cutting it up. As it passed, an ear fell to the ground and Vincent's dog swallowed it immediately. After many hours of dissecting the body, it was late at night, so Vincent planned to dispose of the body early in the morning. The next day, he woke up late and discovered there was a shortage of meat. As he frantically searched for it, Mrs. Coinard, a regular customer, arrived at the store. She said she liked the meat Sophie sold her so much that she came back to buy more. It turns out that Sophie accidentally sold human meat to an unsuspecting Mrs. Coinard, mistaking it for pork. Surprised, Vincent tried to convince her to buy more meat, but the woman insisted that she only wanted what she had been given before. As the two went back and forth, Sophie became curious and asked to buy some meat. Unable to reveal the truth in front of his customers, Vincent reluctantly gave his wife a piece of human flesh, but to her surprise, Sophie liked it, which made Mrs. Coinard even more impatient. Finally, Vincent discovered that he bought the meat from Iran and that's why it was so rare and delicious. He then reluctantly sold most of the meat to Mrs. Coinard, and as soon as she left he revealed everything to his wife. What's surprising is that Sophie doesn't seem to mind eating human flesh. Instead, she suggested selling the meat, saying that might be the best way to dispose of the body as planned. Was not appalled by our suggestion and was prepared to throw the meat away. However, before he could do so, another customer entered the store and asked Mrs. Coinard to buy meat. Gradually, Iranian meat became a famous dish in the neighborhood and the couple made a lot of money after selling it. Seeing the product's popularity skyrocket, Vincent became curious and that evening, he brought a piece of meat home. He hesitantly tried it, but to his surprise, he ended up loving it. Just then, Sophie approaches him and reveals that vegetarians have extremely pure blood, and that's why their meat tastes so good. She then suggests that they hunt down vegetarian extremists and sell their meat to generate more income. However, Vincent silenced her, saying it was ridiculous and immoral. Before going to bed, he also told her to stop watching serial killer shows. The next day, the couple's daughter Chloe brings home her boyfriend Lucas for lunch. The family serves him a fancy steak, but he straight away refuses. It turns out he's a vegan, and out of respect for him, Chloe also refuses to eat. After the vegans leave, Vincent and Sophie realize that all their preparations for a family meal have gone to waste due to veganism. This enrages them, and Vincent decides to go forward with Sophie's plan to hunt vegans. When a vegan is pork in your daughter, it's time to turn that vegan into pork. That night the couple heads to a vegan restaurant and selects the owner as their first target. They follow him for a while, and Vincent even manages to break into his room with a cleaver. However, at the last moment he gets cold feet and backs out, with the first attempt being a total failure. The demanding Sophie feels that they need more practice, hence the next day the couple comes back with an elaborate plan. They pretend to be vegans and protest outside a supermarket to search for a potential vegan target. Eventually a skinny guy walks up to them praising them for their efforts. Sophie convinces him to meet up later in a parking lot so that they can discuss vegan stuff. As per the plan, the couple heads to the spot early and rehearses different ways of killing their target. Soon the vegan arrives in a van, but to the couple's dismay he has brought some of his friends as well. Because of this, Sophie and Vincent are forced to abort their plan. After a while the vegans reveal that they are going to raid a meat shop, so they ask the couple to tag along. Afraid of being exposed, Sophie and Vincent reluctantly oblige. Along the way they lie about their current identities and mention that they are florists. After reaching their destination, the butcher couple realizes that the meat shop belongs to their own friends Mark and Stephanie. Sophie starts doubting the idea, but Vincent, who is clearly envious of his rich friends, enters the shop and starts trashing it with the vegans. In the next scene, the couple goes to a restaurant to have dinner. There they discuss ways to hunt down victims without arousing suspicion. However, they disagree over something and soon get into an ugly fight, causing Vincent to angrily storm off. As Sophie sits there alone, a waiter takes advantage of the opportunity and hits on her. Sophie realizes that they have similar interests, and after a while the waiter takes her out on a ride. When they arrive outside Sophie's home, things get romantic and the two start making out. However, when Sophie finds out that he is a vegan, she purposely bites his tongue, causing it to bleed. She then invites him inside to treat his wound, to which the waiter obliges. While the guy was in the bathroom, Sophie approached Vincent and briefed him on the situation. As expected, the latter became nervous and refused to do it, but the cunning woman began to blackmail him, telling him that she would sleep with the waiter if he refused to kill people. Hearing that, Vincent lost his temper and started sharpening his knife, but at the last moment, he became angry again and urged his wife to let the man go. However, Sophie has other plans. She intentionally left the man naked and began to have sex with him. This made Vincent angry, so he beat the poor man to death. I understand this movie is a metaphor or something, but damn. The next day, Sophie receives a call from her friend Stephanie, who tells her about last night's vandalism. The pair of butchers were immediately present at the scene, pretending to be worried. There, they found Mark arguing with a police officer. It turns out this is the officer investigating the vandalism of Vincent's butcher shop. The police officer then asked to speak to Vincent privately. Vincent was scared at first, but soon we learned that the policeman had also heard about Iran's famous pork dish and he wanted to buy some. Eager to make more money, Vincent immediately agreed, and later that day, the couple sold human flesh again. Many customers lined up to buy the product, and as a result, the product sold out within an hour. So, they decided to make vegan hunting a regular activity, and with the help of deadly weapons and sophisticated techniques, they started a daily killing spree. On weekends, they increased the price of meat and earn high profits. One day, while having lunch with friends, the couple brought over some imitation Iranian pork, and like previous customers, Stephanie and Mark immediately fell in love with the taste. But suddenly, while chewing meat, Mark bit into something metal. Stephanie, a former nurse, immediately recognized the object as a pacemaker. It turns out that one of Vincent's victims had a pacemaker installed in his heart. He tried as best he could to defuse the situation, but the rivalry between the couple's butchers caused an argument that quickly turned into a fight. The two husbands started fighting on the ground, and suddenly, Vincent bit Mark's ear and started chewing it. He then plucked his ear, gave Mark a menacing look, and left with Sophie, terrifying everyone. Sophie and Vincent continue to kill people and make huge profits. Best of all, their dying marriage has now been saved. One day, the couple attended a vegan party and Vincent noticed a chubby boy. The cannibal couldn't resist thinking of ways to slaughter the boy for meat. Soon, Vincent realized that he had become a psychopath. Disgusted with himself, he decides to leave. However, Vincent and Sophie run into their daughter Chloe and her vegan boyfriend Lucas, who are surprised to see them at a vegan meeting. As they talk, Lucas mentions that some vegetarians are disappearing lately. Surely that is the job of butchers. When Vincent tries to refute this theory, Lucas gets angry. He lost his temper and scolded the butcher couple, forcing them to leave the party. Unfortunately, one of the vegetarians who had previously accompanied the couple to Mark's slaughterhouse overheard the fight and was stunned to learn that they were actually butchers. Outside the festival, Sophie eyes a chubby woman and asks her husband to kill her. Unfortunately, Thanks to the previous fight, Vincent has regained the strength to kill. After work ended, they returned home. That evening, as Vincent slaughtered the woman, there was a knock on the door. Unfortunately, it was the police. Vincent carefully opened the door and the two began to chat. The police officer revealed that 10 vegetarians were missing and the butchers became the main suspects. Suddenly, the cheeky dog appeared and walked behind the policeman with a human hand in its mouth. Vincent panicked but quickly chased the dog away and shouted at him. This confuses the police officer and Vincent covers up the matter with a false story that he has suffered from PTSD since the last vegan extremist attack. Soon, the policeman left, but Vincent had the feeling that he was following them. He shares his concerns with Sophie, but she assures him that they cannot be arrested because they have disposed of all the bodies and there is no evidence against them. It turns out that Vincent has disposed of all the flesh of their most recent victims, either by selling them or spreading them around town in trash bags. These measures were taken following greater awareness on social media and increased search for missing persons. Suddenly, the doorbell rang and the couple found Lucas at the door. He greeted them and apologized for misbehaving with them during the vegan festival. Lucas then explains that he has been very stressed since his vegetarian friends started disappearing. Sophie cunningly comforts him and signals her husband to make Lucas their next victim. However, Vincent refuses and instead escorts their future son-in-law out the door the next day without consulting Sophie. Vincent informed his customers that he would no longer sell Iranian pork, to everyone's disappointment. This led to an argument between the couple, forcing Vincent to leave the store with his dog. Meanwhile, the group of vegetarians who destroyed Mark's butcher shop appear at Vincent's house to avenge their betrayal. Sophie tries to expel them but fails. Instead, they got tired and beat her to the core. When Vincent returned from his walk and saw the trucks outside, he realized something was wrong. Without wasting any time, he walked into the store with a knife and saw the vegetarians about to kill his wife. Enraged, Vincent intervened and with the help of his dog, he killed 2 of them. A vegetarian tries to stab Vincent in the shoulder, but luckily Sophie rushes out and finishes him off. The film then ends when the couple is arrested for 30 murders. It is revealed that Mark and Stephanie were the ones who reported Vincent's strange behavior to the police, which eventually led to the butcher couple's arrest. Due to the severity of the crime, Sophie and Vincent were sentenced to death. For more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and show us some love with a like. Thank you for watching.